with big airlines pitching in to help their competition, Southwest, and their passengers get from point A to point B with thousands of Southwest flights canceled today, thousands more already canceled for tomorrow. How the airline has to not only answer to angry customers, but the federal government, too. You've also got the Biden administration announcing late tonight new restrictions on people traveling from China, why the government is so concerned, and what it means for the U.S. relationship with China. Plus, we've been paying less for gas for a while now, but it may not be for long. Some experts say it could tick back up over $4 sometime next year. We'll explain why. Plus, the current pope asking for prayers for the former pope, Benedict, after his health took a turn for the worse today. We've got the latest from the Vatican coming up. And a tennis superstar making his grand return to the Australian Open a year after getting kicked out for not getting the COVID shot. And Novak Djokovic managed to swing this one a little bit later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and tonight it is a kind of all-hands-on-deck situation. You've got some big airlines now pitching in to help people whose Southwest flights got canceled by capping airfares in places where Southwest operates. 62% of Southwest flights across this country are canceled today. 6 in 10 of those flights, 2,500 of them in all. Tomorrow, they've already canceled another 2,300. According to the Department of Transportation, the Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, talked with Southwest's CEO, kind of gave him a talking to. Apparently said the company has to live up to its promises to give passengers some kind of payback for all the trouble they're going through. Because, yes, this is a mess yet again. But for some people, straight cash, just the money, that won't be enough. Watch.
It's a gigantic cluster. I mean, it's a ghost crew here. I mean, it's really terrible. I mean, there's nobody here that seems to be able to help you.
What is going through your mind right now?
Fury is going through my mind.
How do you feel that you can't find the bags?
Sad.
Yeah, I'd be sad, too. Look at this. They are wading through the luggage, oceans of luggage at airports across the country because of all these backed-up flights. Some people just want their stuff. They're not even trying to take the trip anymore. In Atlanta, the bags weren't even on the belt for people to pick up. So this guy, listen, don't recommend it, but he kind of saved the day by just doing it himself, crawling inside the carousel to get people's bags off of the belt. And it's not like this is all weather, right? We've been talking about that big holiday storm, that blizzard, but that is just the beginning of Southwest's issues. If you're like, well, wait a second, why are they still having all these problems? Apparently, it has to do with the fact that a lot of their employees are out sick. They've got some tech issues with their crew scheduling system, too. All of it is creating this sort of perfect storm. Shamari Stone is over at Baltimore Washington International Airport. We know BWI well, Shamari. Southwest hub, right? And nearly a third of the flights leaving out of BWI are canceled today. I feel like the vibes are off where you are. People are angry.
Bye.
People are angry, Hallie. They are frustrated, and they demand to know why this happened and what's going to be done about it. As you showed, look at these bags. They've been here all day long. People have waited 3 to 4 hours just searching, upset, walking away with frustration because they can't find their bag. And over here, you can see these folks. They're taking these bags right over here. No problem, man. Pardon me. Right over here to add to the bags that are already have been here all day. And this is your name?
Cassidy Green.
Now, Cassidy Green, you were actually on Southwest Airlines. You had 9 cancellations or delays since Christmas Eve.
I had 3 cancellations and 9 delays.
So what's going through your mind?
I was just trying to visit my teammate, get to see her. I haven't seen her in a year. And then I was just going through my mind like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm missing my first Christmas with my family because I missed my cousin's 21st birthday, Christmas, and Christmas Eve.
Well, I'm sorry that this is happening to you. I know you're in line with all of these people right now just trying to get answers from Southwest Airlines. And over here, let me get this right. You were able to make it here, but your brother's bag, through the grace of God, your brother's bag is either here or in Tampa.
Either or, we have no idea. No one's given him any information, and he's looking to get home, but doesn't have his bags.
And how is he feeling?
Very, very frustrated. It's been so much work. He didn't get to spend Christmas at home, so he's been upset.
And right now, this is Gus, your dog. He is absolutely adorable. And we've interviewed children. We've talked to adults. But, no one's talking about the animals, and they also have a voice. I know that he is exhausted because you've just been searching for your brother's bag here. Tell me about Gus real quick.
Gus endures the chaos. He loves to be around the chaos and surrounded by you all.
Okay. Well, you can see Gus is so upset that he started barking. Anyway, right now, Southwest Airlines is trying to figure out how they're going to reunite these bags with all its owners. We will continue to bring you updates here. Back to you in the studio, Hallie.
Let me tell you, Shamari, when you've lost the pups, you know you're really in trouble. When even the pups are so pissed that they're barking on live television here. What's interesting about this, right? This is something like travel messes happen sometimes. This is like epic, right? This is at another level. Southwest is apologizing. They're trying to explain how they're going to make it right. But they have to answer not just to customers, but to like the Biden administration, too. They're facing more and more pressure from the government.
Well, that's right. And you have Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg just describing what he plans to do to look into this. But keep in mind that Southwest Airlines is also allowing people to rebook within 30 days of the original travel date. But also they can go online as well to try and figure out, where their luggage is located. But again, you have to really feel for these folks. And a lot of them tell me that this has been the worst Christmas holiday season for them. And they're concerned that they won't have their bags until late January.
And it's not easy for the staffers, for the workers, for the Southwest employees either, I am sure. Shamar Stone, great to see you. Thank you for the assignment you have there. I know it's not a fun one, hearing lots of angry folks all day long. Appreciate it. Looks like it's going to be the same tomorrow, too. Again, the federal government seems to think that Southwest and the issues here cannot all be because of the weather that we saw over the holiday weekend. But there are some places that are still dealing, if not with the weather, then with the aftermath and the recovery. Right as we were coming on the air, we learned that officials in Erie County have confirmed that now 37 people have died in that county alone. 37 lives lost because of that huge storm that just devastated the community, paralyzed people that couldn't go anywhere, right? You see the digging out now is just beginning. The National Guard is doing door-to-door wellness checks at places in Buffalo that probably lost power during the storm. So there is a concern that more victims may be out there. That is something that is present in the mind of rescuers as we speak. The Buffalo Police Department says it has 450 pieces of equipment, quote-unquote, snow fighting equipment, like the stuff you're seeing, to help with cleanup. And the city's airport is finally reopening, but there is still a driving ban in place. Officials are going to reevaluate that later on tonight to see what the deal should be tomorrow. Folks need to get out in some ways to be able to get the things they need. This was the first day Buffalo had 0 winter weather advisories since a week ago, since last Tuesday, according to the National Weather Service. Marissa Parra joins us now from Buffalo. And Marissa, that is good news, right, that the winter weather alerts have ended. But now there's a real concern about the warm-up and maybe flooding on the way to a city that is reeling in all kinds of ways from what they've dealt with.
Exactly. And we actually just learned within the last couple of hours that New York Governor Hochul is directing state resources and state aid to try to get ahead of what we could see to be flooding conditions. And of course, one of the factors here is we talk about the cleanup. We talk about trying to get the snow off of the roads. There's a couple of reasons for that. It's not just to clear the roads for obvious reasons to get the city back up and running, but part of that is an effort to try to get the snow that will very quickly melt far away from areas that would create a flood risk. That's something that we actually learned from the Lackawanna mayor. That's a city that's south of Buffalo. So keep that in mind. But in terms of these state resources, state aid, Governor Hochul says there will be 800,000 sandbags and more than 300 pumps and generators available to deploy as we look to a warmer weekend, Hallie.
The coordination, right? We're looking at these. We talk about the snow fighting equipment, as they call them. They've got to get the snow cleared. You're talking about it. And the stories that we're hearing from people now as the snow does start to get off the streets a little bit are just, in some ways, staggeringly heartbreaking, in others, stories of hope and heroism.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing that has really struck everyone, especially the people who live here, and this cannot be said enough, Buffalo is no stranger to snow. They're used to snow. The last time I was here last month, we saw people cracking open a beer on their front lawn as it was snowing. That was not the part that surprised people. It was the combination of the intense winds and the wind chill. We had negative 20-degree temperatures and gusts of 70 miles per hour when the wind was really at its worst. Visibility visibility close to nothing, according to people that we spoke to that were actually here and hunkering down as this was happening. So this is just a really sad moment. This is a sad day as people are sort of awakening from their slumber, those who were hunkering down for the past few days here. We've spoken to people on the street, even around here in our own hotel. One woman was visibly emotional, Hallie. She was telling us about how she lost heat in her home. She had a blanket around her. She did not know if she was going to survive. She was too shaken to speak to us on camera, but just hearing from her words what it was like not knowing if she was going to make it through the night when it was at its coldest, and then having to take shelter here and realizing how many lives have been lost. It's a hard thing for Buffalo to go through, especially after such a traumatic year. That is for sure. Marissa Power, glad you're there for us in Buffalo. Thank you very much for that. Let's talk about some news breaking just in the last couple hours late today. The Biden administration putting in place some new travel restrictions for people coming to the U.S. from China, starting on Thursday, next Thursday, January 5th, right? So a week from Thursday. Everybody flying in who are 2 years old and older are going to have to get a COVID test at least 48 hours before they leave China or Hong Kong or Macau. They're going to have to give the airlines proof of that negative test before they take off. Now, why, right? Cases in China are surging as that country has backed away from some of its really strict pandemic requirements just a few weeks ago. NBC's Josh Letterman is joining us now. So, Josh, this is, in many ways, deja vu to what we saw in the very, very first days of the pandemic. Right. This country has been through so much since then, but now here we are with travel precautions being put in place. Explain more about how they're going to work and what you're hearing from the sources that you're talking to on this.
So it's going to work kind of like it did earlier in the pandemic, Hallie. You're going to need to get either a PCR test, like at a clinic or a test center, or you can use one of those home self-antigen tests, those rapid tests, if it's the kind that is proctored by telehealth, meaning someone is watching you via webcam conduct that test. It has to be within 2 days of departing from China to the U.S., and it'll apply to anyone, American citizens, Chinese citizens, whoever is traveling from China to the United States. And if you have recently tested positive for COVID more than 10 days prior to departure, you will be able to use a documentation of recent recovery from COVID in lieu of that negative COVID test, Hallie. And of course, it'll be up to the airlines to be adjudicating who has a valid COVID-19 test before they're allowed to get on a plane heading here to the U.S.
And the reasoning behind this, right, as we've talked about and as you've laid out here, it's the spike in COVID cases. It's the concern that China is not being transparent about COVID cases. That is not a new concern, Josh, right? It wouldn't be surprising to U.S. officials if, in fact, that were the case. And then concerns about the potential rise of a new variant.
The concerns about whether China is transparently reporting its data are not new, but what's new is before there was very little COVID spreading in China because of those really extreme zero COVID policies they had. Now that it is apparently exploding there, the concern is that if a new variant of concern were to emerge from China, the U.S. epidemiologists wouldn't necessarily know about it in time to do anything about it if they're not getting that genomic level data from the Chinese. And that is one reason that in addition to this pre-departure testing, the U.S. is also expanding a monitoring program to the Los Angeles and Seattle airports, where they take nasal swabs voluntarily from anonymous international travelers who are arriving at those airports, and then they test them to see exactly what variant it is so they can track what is spreading around the world and getting into the country and try to make sure that they are getting ahead of it, Hallie.
You know, the response from China has been fairly low-key so far on this. The foreign ministry spokesperson said that all countries should fight the epidemic in a scientific way. I'm quoting here, work together to ensure safe travel between countries, maintain stability of global industrial and supply chains, and restore healthy growth of the world economy. That's not like a super feisty response. Talk about the bigger geopolitical implications here between two countries where the relationship is not exactly at a high point.
That's right. And China has long been sensitive about attacks from the U.S. regarding COVID-19, particularly because the former president kept blaming China for this worldwide virus. And remember some of the not so pleasant things and words that President Trump would use to describe COVID-19 and its Chinese origins. And so that is kind of the backdrop for this. But U.S. officials kind of say the same as the Chinese in terms of we should be working together on this. this. And in fact, U.S. federal health officials today, as they announced this, were pointing out that they have continued to offer help to the Chinese to deal with this COVID surge, including COVID-19 vaccines. They say the Chinese so far have not been willing to accept that help, but that the offer still stands.
Josh Letterman live for us there on the White House North Lawn. Josh, thank you very much. Right now, former Pope Benedict, the Pope Emeritus, is on around-the-clock medical care and monitoring after his health suddenly took a turn for the worse today. The current Pope, Pope Francis, is asking for prayers. He says he's asking everybody to pray for the Pope Emeritus, with the Vatican also saying the ex-Pope's condition got worse because of how old he is. He's 95 years old. You'll remember Benedict became head of the Catholic Church back in 2005. And then in 2013, he became the first Pope in more than 600 years to resign. That happened right in the middle of that sex abuse scandal in the church. Earlier this year, an independent report found Benedict did not act in 4 cases of sex assault when he was archbishop in the 70s and 80s. He later apologized, but admitted no wrongdoing. Raf Sanchez is joining us now. So, Raf, let's start with the health of Pope Benedict, because the fact that the Vatican came out at all and issued this statement at all, the fact that Pope Francis at all felt empowered to publicly ask for prayers for the health of the Pope Emeritus seems like an indication that his health is worsening very quickly.
Yeah, Hallie, it is a sign of how serious this situation is. So we had a whole flurry of announcements from the Vatican in the morning, Rome time. It's now been about 12 hours. There hasn't been any official update since then. But the tone of those statements, unmistakable. They were solemn. They are preparing the world for what may soon be the end of the life of the Pope Emeritus. We heard, as you said, first of all, from Pope Francis himself, which was very unusual, asking for prayers. And then we got a slightly more detailed medical statement from the Vatican. They're saying this decline in Pope Benedict's health is related to his age. He is 95 years old now. They say he is receiving around-the-clock medical care. And Pope Francis actually went to visit him earlier at the monastery where he's been living the last 9 years, which again, I think is a sign, the fact that the Pope felt it was important to make that visit today, about how serious the situation is, Hallie.
Talk about Benedict and his sort of role in the church, because he was a very different pope than Pope Francis, who is seen in some ways as trying to modernize the church moving forward.
Yeah, Hallie, the irony here is the thing that history will probably most boldly record about Pope Benedict is the fact that he resigned. And as you said, it is just so unusual. This has not happened in 6 centuries, and it is potentially going to create a lot of new precedent in an institution where precedents don't come all that often. We just do not know what the next steps are here in terms of the potential passing of a former pope. But as you said, one of the big parts of his legacy will be the fact that the child sex abuse scandal really exploded while he was pope. He made some moves to try to meet with victims, to try to express remorse. But I think the 2 things people will remember are his resignation and the shadow of that sex abuse scandal. Hallie.
You bring up something important, Raf, which is the idea that there is no set playbook for how this is going to look, right, moving forward. If people, for example, if Catholics are making pilgrimages to Rome now to pay their respects to Pope Benedict while he is still alive, you know, there's just some question marks here, because this just hasn't happened, where there has been a living current pope and then a former pope in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We know what happens when a sitting pope dies. There is tradition that goes back thousands of years. It ends with that conclave where a new pope is elected. You will see presidents, kings, prime ministers all flocking to Rome for a very, very high-profile funeral of, you know, the pope is still a world leader. As Stalin famously asked, how many divisions does the pope have? But the reality is the pope is still the spiritual leader of a community of more than 1 billion people. One of the trends we saw under Benedict is that church attendance declined in both the U.S. and in Europe, but it continued to rise in Asia and in Africa, Hallie.
Raf Sanchez, thank you for watching all of this for us. We'll see how any developments go tonight, tomorrow, et cetera. Appreciate it. Back here at home in San Francisco, the man accused of attacking Paul Pelosi, the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, in court today, pleading not guilty to state charges. In an arraignment coming 2 weeks after a judge ruled there was enough evidence for David DePape to go to trial. Look at these sketches from inside the courtroom today. Remember, this is a guy accused of breaking into the Pelosi's home in San Francisco and attacking Paul Pelosi with a hammer. Police say he broke into the house in the first place to try to kidnap the speaker. She wasn't home. DePape's now facing 6 counts, including attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse. He could face 5 decades in prison if he's convicted. Steve Patterson is joining us now. Steve, did we get any clues or hints today as to what a trial could look like if, in fact, one happens? I think the timeline on that is TBD.
TBD, yeah, and DePape literally said one word in court today, which was yes, which is him essentially waiving his right to a trial within 60 days, right to a speedy trial. This was a very quick hearing meant specifically for him to enter that plea, which covers all of those state charges he's accused of, including, as you mentioned, murder, attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and elder abuse. Frankly, the more explosive hearing was when you and I spoke last time, about 2 weeks ago, where we heard audio recordings of the 911 call from Paul Pelosi, who basically got police to the house almost by talking in code, where we heard audio from the body camera, including the moment where Pelosi was allegedly struck by that hammer, where we actually saw the hammer in court, and then heard audio recordings of DePape planning to target other people, including Governor Gavin Newsom, Tom Hanks, Hunter Biden. All of this now, all of these hearings, clearing the way for what's expected to be a fairly explosive trial. The next hearing date we know for this one is late February, where that trial date will finally be set. Hallie.
And talk about that trial. If it does go to trial and there's not a plea for in some way before that, I mean, and what it would be like for the Pelosi family here, Steve, because presumably it would be just incredibly high profile here.
Yeah, and Paul Pelosi, almost unequivocally expected to be called to the stand. So bringing all of this back up in court will have ramifications, will be, again, explosive. And not only that, but there's a whole federal side to this. All these separate charges related to Nancy Pelosi's status as a federal official. There's another conference for those charges in early February as well. And remember, just the federal side alone, just those charges alone, DePape is looking at life in prison. So high stakes. Hallie?
Steve Patterson live for us there out west in California. Steve, thank you. The suspected ringleader of that plot to kidnap and assassinate the Michigan governor sentenced to nearly 20 years in prison. Technically 19 and a half years. Not only did he plan to kidnap the governor, prosecutors say he hoped to kill her. That's one reason why he got the longest sentence out of all the men involved in this plot. His co-conspirator, Adam Fox, got 16 years in prison yesterday. Both of these men now convicted in the plot to target Governor Gretchen Whitmer at her vacation home in Michigan. They even plan to use a bomb to take out a highway overpass to try to slow down any police who would come to rescue her. Joining us now is NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns. And Dasha, this is a significant sentence for Barry Croft Jr.
Yeah, it's a significant sentence. It stopped short of what prosecutors were asking for, which was a life sentence for both Croft and Fox. But the judge did largely agree with the prosecutor's case that Croft fueled this attempted kidnapping with dangerous rhetoric. The judge called Croft the, quote, idea guy who egged on co-conspirators with wrong and twisted ideology. We saw a lot of strong rhetoric from the prosecutors as well. The assistant U.S. attorney said that Croft is thoroughly radicalized, that he hasn't changed his viewpoint. He even compared him to the man who masterminded the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. So these were serious words from both the assistant U.S. attorney and from the judge in this case, making clear that this was a serious crime and sending a message with that sentencing, Hallie.
And it is a moment where there's so much attention on political violence, Dasha, and the concern about threats to government officials, to law enforcement, et cetera.
I mean, think about the headlines we're talking about today, Hallie. You just had Steve Patterson on talking about a man who assaulted the husband of the House Speaker. We are talking about a January 6th participant who had a standoff with the FBI today. I mean, this is a time when there needs to be a serious message sent to anyone plotting these sorts of things. And that's what I think the judge tried to do in this case, and try to sort of lay the groundwork for anyone attempting to attack or threaten public servants. But when you think about anybody holding office right now, Hallie, or anybody considering holding office, and the things that they're having to weigh, not only for themselves, but for their families as well. I mean, typically when you hold office, you're concerned about, maybe making some people angry and losing some votes. But in this case, you might be making people angry and having your life or your family's life threatened.
NBC's Dasha Burns all over the story for us. Dasha, thank you for that reporting. Today in Ukraine, the military there is saying that Russian forces are going all in on Kherson, launching more than 30 rocket attacks in this critical region, mostly in places where people live. So officials are out today basically begging folks to leave now, like immediately, because look at this. This is obviously why, right? What you're seeing on your screen, people's houses being shared by a top official in President Zelensky's office. Look at the floor and walls of this room, just totally blown out, inside and outside. The strikes are getting so bad that they apparently even hit a maternity ward in the area, where at least 5 women were recovering after giving birth. Thankfully, luckily, miraculously, nobody appears to have been hurt. But it's not like there's a clear end in sight for this violence. The Kremlin spokesperson today saying there's not going to be a peace plan so long as Ukraine refuses to recognize these 4 regions as Russian. They are Ukrainian regions because Russia illegally took them from Ukraine. Matt Bradley joins us now. Matt, that speaks to the dissonance and the separation here between these two nations, even though they're talking about peace talks, and that is, ostensibly on the table. Realistically, they can't even agree. There's no agreement on a starting point here because Russia refuses to sort of recognize the realities.
Yeah, and I think, Hallie, there's kind of a bit of posturing on both sides because we've heard from the Ukrainians. They said that they want to have a peace conference hosted by the United Nations before the end of February, the first anniversary of the start of the war. But then they also said that Russia wouldn't be invited to the table unless they submitted to war crimes trials. So it's like saying, Russia, you're not going to be able to be part of these peace talks unless you allow us to go in and arrest all of your people and accuse them of war crimes. Well, that's probably not going to happen. So that's not really a realistic offer as well. And then, we've heard Vladimir Putin was essentially, when he made his entreaty a couple of days ago, saying that he was willing to negotiate, or that he was always willing to negotiate, which kind of raised a couple of eyebrows and probably a few smirks here in Kyiv. He also wasn't really, if you actually look at what he said, talking about Ukraine itself. He was talking about the West, because the fact of the matter is that Vladimir Putin has believed since the beginning of the fight that he's not necessarily even at war with the Ukrainians or against Kyiv. He's fighting against America and against NATO. This has always been his line. So we're talking about two countries that are talking past each other, even as they're at war. And Hallie, the fact of the matter is, how can you really talk about peace when the battles are raging so fiercely and so many people are still dying on the front lines?
Talk about that, right? Talk about what it's been like with this most recent round of strikes there on the ground.
Well, if you're talking about Kherson, this city was always going to be vulnerable. And the fact of the matter is that the Russians essentially walked away from Kherson only about 6 or 7 weeks ago. And the Ukrainians simply walked in and liberated the city. There was almost no shots fired. Well, now there are quite a few shots being fired. They're launching rockets from the other side of the Dnieper River into Kherson City, the side that the Russians still occupy. So Kherson has always been vulnerable. And as long as the Ukrainians don't take the other side of the Dnieper River, civilians in that city are going to be facing bombardments like they have this week. We were talking about the last round. There's dozens of missiles and rockets that fell on Kherson in just the last 24 hours. Well, remember, there were 11 people who were killed on Christmas Eve and dozens more who were wounded. And we've been seeing these bombardments constantly for the last week or two. So the fact of the matter is Kherson remains vulnerable, and the civilians who are in that city, even though they've withstood the worst, they've withstood a withering Russian occupation. Kherson was the first major city to be occupied by the Russians from the outset of the war. It looks like the nightmare is not over for the residents of Kherson, and probably won't be until the Ukrainians can snuff out the Russians on the other side of the river.
Matt Bradley, live for us there in Kyiv. Matt, thank you for being on the ground with us. Appreciate it. Coming up here on the show, if you have had to put gas in your car recently, and you probably did, you may have been like, oh, hey, not so bad, right? We'll talk about what to expect in the new year. And I hate to tell you, kind of a mixed bag. There's some good news. There's some meh news. We'll talk about $4 a gallon gas coming up. Plus, one NBA player just making history. We've got that in the 5 things. A deadly 200-car crash caught on video in China. We've got that coming up in the 5 things. But first, one thing that maybe everybody would like to leave behind in 2022 are bananas gas prices. However, some experts are making some predictions for the new year. It's not going to be as bad as it was this past year, but it may still get kind of pricey. Right now, the national average for a gallon of regular is $3.13 a gallon. That's down from a month and a year ago. So great, right? Back in June, after the war in Ukraine kicked off, we saw the average above $5 a gallon for the first time ever. So What's up with next year? Some analysts are now out today saying we could see prices tick back up past $4 a gallon as early as May. However, it's not going to be as painful as it was over these last 11 and a half months. Joining us now is business and data reporter Brian Chung. So this $4 gallon mark, Brian, probably would get hit sometime in the summer with that travel peak. That's still better than what we saw this past year.
Yeah, absolutely. And for what it's worth, prices tend to go up in the later spring into the summer because a lot of people want to go out. They want to hit the road trip. That's a reason why. But there are a number of other factors that are worth watching as well. And it's all about geopolitics. So on the Russia-Ukraine side of things, Russia is a major producer of oil. And what we've seen is that in response to a price cap that a number of G7 countries have placed on Russia as retaliation to its invasion of Ukraine, Russia is perhaps going to cut back on the supply entirely to any country that is playing by that price cap, which could make prices go up if the supply is going down. And then you also have to watch what's happening in China, because as they reopen, there could be a spike in demand for gasoline. But then on the other hand, if there's a sharp rise in cases, which we're also seeing, maybe no one goes out of their apartments or homes anyway. So it's kind of a bit of a toss-up in terms of the impact of China on gas. But either way, the low prices that we're seeing, sub $3 in some cases, is something that might be a remnant of the past once we get towards 2023.
How does inflation play into this?
Yeah, well, inflation definitely plays into this when we think about just how gas is a major factor in terms of the budget that a lot of Americans use when they fill up their cars. If they're having to pay more at the pump, they might choose to cut back on expenditures for everything else. So we know that if it is indeed the case that we're seeing some alleviation of the high gas prices that we saw compared to earlier this year when gas prices were around $5, maybe that allows Americans to go out and spend a little bit more and be able to afford things that are more expensive, like, for example, food and then also rent. But overall, the picture on inflation is improving, whereas it was about 9% pacing in the middle of this year. Now it's about 7.1%. Federal Reserve really wants to see that closer to 2%, but seeing signs of progress, maybe things get better on the prices front in 2023.
Brian Chung, let's hope. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Thank you. Good to see you. Appreciate that. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Chinese state media reporting at least one person has been killed. Look at this. When some 200-plus cars got into a big pileup on a Chinese bridge, it was super foggy. That's what triggered this massive crash, which left a lot of people trapped inside their vehicles. Number 2, Kabosu, the internet-famous dog who inspired the Doge meme and Dogecoin crypto. He's been diagnosed with leukemia and liver disease. He's 17 years old, a Shiba Inu, who stopped eating and drinking on Christmas Eve. And even though his appetite has since come back, the dog's moving around less and more slowly, according to his owner. Number 3, earlier today, the Kansas governor, Laura Kelly, becomes the first Democratic governor to restrict TikTok. It's a ban that applies to all state-owned devices of government workers who report to her and the administration. It's a response to concerns about data security on TikTok, which is owned by a Chinese parent company. TikTok has said U.S. user data is stored separately. The governor wants other state agencies to follow her lead, too. Number 4, you know the Mega Millions jackpot, 6th biggest ever? Nobody won last night, so the game continues. Prize now $640 million. Next drawing, Friday, late night. Number 5, Dallas Mavericks star Luka Doncic did something the NBA has never seen before. 60 points, 21 rebounds, 10 assists in his team's comeback win against the Knicks. This is the first 60-point, 20-rebound triple-double ever in the NBA. After his historic performance, Doncic told Bally Sports Southwest, and I'm quoting here, he said, "I'm tired as hell. I need a recovery beer," which is also something I say every night after this show. When we come back, the new details about a possible plea in Sam Bankman-Fried's fraud case, with regulators sharing how a little-known website played a pretty big role behind the scenes of this whole FTX crypto chaotic mess. We've got that after the break. We've learned as we were coming on the air that Maryland Congressman and January 6th House Select Committee member Jamie Raskin has been diagnosed, he says, with a serious but curable form of cancer called diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. The congressman, in a statement, saying he's about to start a chemoimmunotherapy treatment and that the prognosis for most people in his situation is excellent. He said thanks to early detection and his doctors and family, he plans to get through this. Let's talk about Sam Bankman-Fried, who is set to enter his plea Tuesday. As today, we're learning more about the house of cards that was his crypto empire and a little-known entity that played a key role in this whole FTX mess. According to a filing by the SEC, North Dimension was where FTX customers were told to wire their cash if they wanted to trade on FTX, which, as you remember, epically collapsed a few weeks ago. But the SEC says money wired to North Dimension by FTX clients ended up paying for all the other stuff that Sam Bankman-Fried wanted to do instead, like his crypto hedge fund, Alameda. North Dimension's website didn't mention any connection to Alameda or to SBF himself. And then get this. An NBC News investigation found North Dimension Inc. was also like a fake online electronics retailer, complete with a junk website riddled with misspellings and bogus product prices. Gretchen Morgensen joins us now. And Gretchen, it feels like this taken as a whole, right, this writ large, shows just how much, we said it, but how much of a house of cards this entire crypto empire, quote unquote, was built on.
How crazy has this story been, Hallie, from the very beginning? I mean, the guy is supposed to be a billionaire at the age of 30, and then all of a sudden, it's nothing. It's kaput. It's a fraud, according to prosecutors. So we're still learning a tremendous amount. And so what we dug into was this website, North Dimension Inc., because it appeared in this SEC filing as a company where money would be wired to trade on FTX's exchange. Except why would you wire money to a cell phone distributor or a company that is selling laptops? It was very bizarre. We went back into the Internet Archive to check it out. And if you clicked on a product to try to buy it, an error message would come up that said, hey, email us. We really want to do business with you. But you couldn't actually buy the product. So this is a complete mystery.
It's like every red flag. Gretchen, it's like a red flag after red flag after red flag. I'm not trying to like diss or slam the people who did it. Like they probably thought that's what you should do. But in hindsight, it looked real sketchy.
Totally, totally. And so the question is, how were these websites verified? You know, so we have obviously regulators who were supposedly watching over at least some of this, but there was a bank involved, which is called Silvergate Bank, and that was FTX's biggest banking partner. And as you know, they're, under scrutiny by Congress because Congress wants to know what role did they play, if any, in how this money was transferred from FTX into the Alameda, Sam Bankman-Fried sort of personal empire, which we now know that it was. And so if it went through this phony website, which had, by the way, 2 bank accounts at Silvergate Bank, then it seems to me prosecutors are going to want to look at that. And where did the money go? How was it funneled? Was there any due diligence done on North Dimension with this crazy website?
So what's up for Sam Bankman-Fried next? He's in house arrest. I think he's under house arrest at his parents' home in California right now. What are the next steps for him?
Well, next steps would be either to defend himself in this case. As you know, an indictment was handed down earlier this month with multiple counts, including fraud, but also, political contributions that were questionable. So he has to defend himself against that, or he could make a plea agreement with prosecutors. We just don't know what's next at the moment.
Gretchen Morgensen, I know you will be following every twist and turn, and it feels like there will be more twists and turns to come. Thank you, Gretchen. Great to see you. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our Western Bureau, there have been some pretty dangerous and dramatic weather patterns this holiday season, and now parts of the West are looking at another major event called this atmospheric river. It's basically a fancy name, forecasters say, for tons of heavy snow and rain for days. That's scary because it could lead to flash floods or mudslides or power outages. The storm system has already hit parts of Northwest California and Oregon. It's something we're watching. Out of our Midwest Bureau, they are looking at a measles outbreak in central Ohio. More than 80 reported cases so far. The vast majority of them are kids who are not vaccinated. Measles was declared eliminated back in 2000, but pockets of cases keep popping up across the country. Also out of our Midwest Bureau, high school swimming champion Lucy Art took the motto, just keep swimming to the next level. She won the state's 50 free title in Wisconsin. And while that is like real impressive on its own, you have to remember she also survived a shark attack 20 months earlier. A black-tipped shark bit her wrist and legs while she was swimming at the beach. During rehab, Lucy didn't know if she would ever be able to swim again. Well, now she's planning to continue her swimming career in college next year. You'd love to see it. Coming up here on the show, tennis star Novak Djokovic back in Australia a year after he was deported ahead of the Australian Open. We've got more on that high-profile return and high-profile tournament coming up. Stay with us. Tennis superstar Novak Djokovic has landed without any problems in Southern Australia for this year's Australian Open. That is a definite change from last year when he was deported because he wouldn't get vaccinated against COVID. This is him today, walking onto court for practice ahead of the tournament. He has a visa. He's listed to play in the Open. Unlike this scene last January when Djokovic was detained by border control, held in a hotel room for several days, and then had his visa canceled. Let's bring in Brad Gilbert, now a former tennis pro and coach who now works as an analyst for ESPN. Brad, here we meet again, right? Talking about Djokovic and the Australia Open here. We had been hearing initially about a potential 3-year ban from even going into Australia after what went down last year. Now he's back on a visa. So what changed?
Well, first of all, I kind of thought, his 3-year ban that he got would be a problem for him getting back in. But a couple of months ago, that they could get this 3-year visa ban rescinded, which they did. And then he flew about 4 or 5 days ago into the country. But it was incredible, the scenes right before the tournament last year, as 2 different times, kind of like in Zoom courts, this played out, and he was eventually deported. But amazing, 11 and a half months later, he's back.
Yeah, what a difference a year can make, especially for him and especially at this event, the first big tournament of the tennis season. And it's kind of his signature.
Well, tennis-wise, arguably his best tournament. He's won it 9 times. He has his biggest crowd support outside of Serbia at any big tournament. There's a huge Serbian population in Melbourne who comes out in full force to see him play. And I think his game, obviously, he's good on anything, but now he will have the opportunity, if he can potentially win this tournament, to tie Rafael Nadal with 22 Grand Slams. And he comes in as the favorite based upon how well he plays on this surface.
But he missed tournaments last season, right? This whole, he won't, he's not vaccinated. He said he wouldn't get vaccinated for COVID. That affected him playing in tournaments last season. Is he in, I don't know the right phrase, is he in top form? Is he in peak condition? Is he ready to go? Could he win this thing?
Could he win it? Definitely. Is he the favorite? Amazingly, yes. Considering that he couldn't come to the States last year. And a lot of the tournaments he was not able to come to. But when he played brilliantly. It's amazing that he can put all of this stuff, Hallie, behind him. And when he's on the court, it's amazing what he can do. So he can't still get into the States, but who knows how that will play out through the rest of 23. But starting the year, I think he finished the year great, winning the year-end championships. I expect him to play great down under.
We shall see. Brad Gilbert, quite the next few days of tennis coming up for you and for everyone who likes to watch the sport. Thank you, sir. Good to see you again. Still to come, 2022 was a pretty huge year for space exploration, but 2023 could be even bigger. We'll talk about what to expect in the year ahead with our own Tom Costello coming up right after the break. Another milestone for private space explorers today. Check it out here. Footage from the SpaceX Falcon 9 launch in Florida earlier, which put 54 more Starlink satellites in orbit. Once those are up and running, it's going to expand Starlink internet access and make it run faster. That's a service that's already being used in Ukraine, for example, to keep people online even during the war with Russia. That Falcon 9 rocket also stuck its landing on a drone ship out in the Atlantic, making it the 60th successful launch for SpaceX in 2022. And it's not just SpaceX. This year has seen a series of seriously big deal accomplishments when it comes to exploring space, from deflecting asteroids to a new generation of astronauts getting ready to return to the moon. Our aviation and space correspondent Tom Costello has documented every moment of the year out there, so we asked him to hit the highlights in the final frontier.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1.
In a year of triumphs for space exploration, NASA's Artemis moon mission was the headline-grabbing finale. A 25-day, 1.4 million-mile test flight of the new Orion spaceship that will one day carry astronauts back to the moon. An 80-mile-high, high-resolution flyover of the moon, a long orbit deeper into space.
Orion is right on the money, coming right down the pike.
Then a spectacular re-entry with the heat shield hitting 5,000 degrees. That's half the temperature of the sun.
And there it is, high over the Pacific.
Before a gentle parachute drop into the Pacific Ocean.
Splashdown.
It is the beginning of the new beginning, and that is to explore the heavens.
That new beginning will include astronauts on a similar test flight around the moon in 2024. Then a lunar landing in 2025 or 26 with a crew that includes a woman and a person of color. The first return to the moon since those heady days of Apollo.
Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
But NASA is also leaning heavily on private companies. SpaceX now regularly launches both crew and cargo to the ISS. This is the view of Earth from the International Space Station and a simulator at NASA in Houston. Outside the cupola, the blue richness of Earth and the blackness, the deep blackness of space. And right there, the Canadarm, which has reached out to grab an incoming cargo vessel. And SpaceX is now working overtime on its Starship that will carry astronauts to the moon. Then perhaps Mars in the late 2030s. Another huge success in 2022, NASA's DART mission.
And we have impact.
The spacecraft in time-lapse traveling at 14,000 miles per hour, slamming into a small asteroid named Dimorphos 7 million miles from Earth and pushing it ever so slightly off its orbit. A critical success if NASA hopes to one day deflect an incoming planet-killing asteroid away from Earth.
Now, this is a watershed moment for planetary defense and a watershed moment for humanity.
But the most visual space achievement in 2022 were those spectacular images from the Deep Space James Webb Telescope. Using infrared cameras, we're now looking at light billions of years old. The creation of the universe, distant stars and galaxies, stunning nebulas, begging the question, are we alone?
We could have an answer about whether or not there's life in the universe, which would change everything, right? Would change our entire understanding of what we were and who we are in the universe.
It's big and beckoning to a new generation of explorers. Tom Costello, NBC News, Houston.
And on that note, we will leave you to think about what you will explore next and next year as well, because that's next time I will see you. Have a wonderful rest of your holiday week. That does it for us this hour. I'll see you in 2023. We'll have more for you here. In the meantime, of course, not just tomorrow, but in just a couple of minutes, more coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.